The raid was brilliant. Drones worked in tandem with ground units in an assault unlike anything seen in the Ukraine war so far. By the end, Russia's positions on a key Black Sea island lay in tatters, and Ukraine had planted a flag signifying its victory on a piece of land that Russia had held for almost the entire war. Ukrainian special forces just did something unbelievable in the Black Sea. The Artan Unit has wiped out a Russian radar base in an amphibious blitz that has left Vladimir Putin's forces shaken to their collective core. Precisely what happened was revealed on August 5. That's when a huge update came from the Kherson region of Ukraine. That region, which is home to the first Ukrainian city to fall to Putin's invading forces, has been a battleground since Russia invaded. Ukraine retook Kherson city in a brilliant counter-offensive, but the battle still rages as Putin keeps on pushing to overtake the entire oblast. The August 5 update may come from the Kherson region, however, it's not from Kherson itself. Rather, what Ukraine just pulled off happened on a tiny island off the Kherson coast that Russia has been using to subdue Ukraine's efforts in the Black Sea. The location of the assault was the Tendrivska Spit, which is a small patch of land to the east of Kherson, though close enough to Russian-occupied territory that Putin's forces have been able to control it for much of the war. Ukraine's target was a radar hub built on the island that's allowed Russia to monitor everything from Ukraine's seaborne drones to its aerial assaults. Radar is the most important tool for effective enemy detection and aerial defense. Ukraine knows this all too well, which is why the Tendrivska Spit was an obvious target. The question was simple: how could Ukraine launch an assault on that island without getting caught by the very radar systems they wanted to destroy? The answer to that question came from one of Ukraine's most elite special forces, the Artan Unit. Part of Ukraine's Special Forces Team, or HUR, the Artan Unit was formed on June 1, 2022, and is a small team made up of between 500 and 1,500 elite soldiers, according to Military Land. The unit pulls the best of Ukraine's military into its orbit, with all of its recruits being volunteers who know that they're signing up to take part in some of the most dangerous operations that HUR plans. Military Land says that many of the volunteers are sports people and people who have similar athletic conditioning, and their goal is simple: wreak havoc against Russia in the Black Sea. And havoc is precisely what the Artan Unit delivers. It follows through on its motto of "we know, we find, we destroy" by conducting raids against some of Russia's most valuable Black Sea fortifications and equipment. Though it had been operating for over a year, the first time many people heard of the Artan Unit came when it conducted a daring operation to retake the Petro-Hodovanets and Ukraine oil drilling platforms in September 2023. That operation later evolved into a wider mission to retake several other platforms. The Artan Unit pulled it off. By March 2024, HUR felt confident enough in its results to reveal that the platforms were back under Ukraine's control. And the Artan Unit was far from done. In November 2023, just a few months after retaking the drilling platforms, the Artan Unit hinted that it would soon be launching a strike against the Kerch Bridge. That bridge, which connects the Russian mainland to Crimea, is an obvious target because of its logistical importance. In November 2023, the Kyiv Post reported that HUR had released a video, seemingly shot by somebody standing right next to the bridge, with a YouTube title and description reading "Crimean Autumn Wind and Completely Unnecessary Construction. To be continued." Multiple attacks have been launched against the Kerch Bridge since, the most recent of which saw Ukraine damage the bridge with a powerful underwater strike on June 3rd. Was the Artan Unit involved in the planning of the strike? HUR will never reveal the answer, but given that this is the unit that retook key Ukrainian drilling platforms and helped Ukraine to secure Snake Island, there's a pretty good chance that the Artan Unit played a role. The Artan Unit has proven itself time and time again to be a force that all of Russia's soldiers should fear. On August 5, it pulled off what may be its greatest operation yet on the Tendrivska Spit. Euromaidan Press provides the details. The operation started with Artan Unit soldiers sailing toward the Spit on rubber boats. These weren't run-of-the-mill dinghies. Every single boat was loaded with radars that would allow it to detect incoming threats. They also came packed with electronic warfare systems that the Artan unit may have used to jam Russia's radars as they drew near the Tendrivska Spit. And if the proverbial hit the fan before the soldiers landed, the boats also carried massive machine guns that the unit could use to provide covering fire as it made a hasty retreat. As it turned out, those guns wouldn't be needed. Russia's forces on the Tendrivska Spit didn't see the Artan unit coming, allowing it to sail its rubber boats to shore. The soldiers disembarked and started moving further inland. They came across several Russian coastal fortifications and bunkers, all of which were abandoned. Putin's forces appear to have grown complacent. These fortifications could have served as a first line of defense against the Artan unit. Instead, they were empty and useless, meaning Russia essentially left the door wide open for a Ukrainian assault. The Artan unit was more than happy to walk through that door. The unit spent some time getting into position before it stopped. Waiting was the next task. What came next needed to be done under the cover of nightfall to ensure the coming ambush was successful. Again, the unit was prepared. As the dark of night enveloped the skies, each member of the coastal assault team switched on their night vision goggles. Then they started moving forward. Soon the targets were in sight. The Artan unit came to the Tendrivska Spit because they needed to take out two key pieces of Russian equipment. A Rosa radar system that was allowing Russia to monitor all of Ukraine's activity around the Kherson coast and in the wider Black Sea region, and the Zont electronic warfare system protecting the radar from Ukrainian skies. The Zont system went down first, leaving the Rosa radar exposed. All of the while, drone operators from the Artan unit were flying first-person view or FPV drones around the Tendrivska Spit, with the footage they captured providing live intelligence to the soldiers on the ground. If Russia attempted to launch a counterattack, the Artan unit would know about it. Thanks to those drones, the unit managed to clear the few Russian positions on the tiny island before it finally took out its main target. The Rosa radar system went down in flames. In its place, the Artan unit left a Ukrainian flag and a message for any Russian troops that might come across the wreckage of what was once one of their country's most vital pieces of Black Sea equipment. Glory to Ukraine. Now, all of this would have been impressive on its own. But as the days went by following the Artan unit's successful strike, more details started to emerge. Those details revealed that the attack on the Tendrivska Spit wasn't an isolated strike. The Artan unit and HUR had been planning it for weeks, perhaps even months, and a series of assaults before the island landing had opened the door to making it all possible. Before Ukraine's rubber boats ever came close to the Tendrivska Spit shoreline, Ukraine had been targeting radar emplacements around the island. One could almost view these emplacements as amplifiers for the main radar system that the Artan unit wanted to take out. Each gave Russia a slightly wider view of what Ukraine was getting up to in the Black Sea. By taking them out, one by one, Ukraine was able to slowly close Russia's eyes to what it was planning to do. That's the reason why nobody came to meet the Artan unit troops as they deployed onto the Tendrivska Spit. And taking out those emplacements was far easier than Putin would have wanted. The key problem for all of these emplacements was their location. Each was placed on a narrow strip of land that was either only slightly connected to the Ukrainian mainland or in many cases was a little unconnected island onto itself. That lack of connection meant that Russia's troops would need to use boats to sail to these outposts to keep the few stationed on them supplied. Those types of delays played right into the Artan unit's hands. Euromaidan Press says that the weeks leading up to the assault on the Tendrivska Spit saw the Artan unit use FPV drones to strike buildings on these outposts that Russian soldiers were using as barracks. Each destroyed outpost was along the route that the Artan unit intended to take to the Spit, meaning it was carving out a corridor that would give it a safe passage to its ultimate destination. Along the way, Ukraine also used drones to attack the supply ships sailing to these outposts, meaning troops couldn't be rotated and the situation on each was getting worse and worse by the day. One might think that Russia would see the pattern that was emerging. Sure, a single strike against an outpost could be considered an isolated attack, but several, in quick succession, all across a defined route, that should have given the game away. That assumption would be wrong. Russia didn't suspect a thing, partially because it understood that each of these outposts was vulnerable to the sorts of attack the Artan unit was launching. Their losses were deemed acceptable, Euromaidan Press says. After all, there were more outposts. Ukraine didn't take them all out. What Russia didn't realize was that the outposts Ukraine left alone were the ones that wouldn't be able to alert Russia's troops about the rubber boats sailing toward Tendrivska Spit. What's clear from all of this is the key difference between Putin's approach to the war he started and Ukraine's approach. Putin is all about brute force. Russia only manages to take Ukrainian territory because Putin has created an attritional meat grinder that operates on a simple strategy: grind Ukraine down through sheer numbers, and Russia will eventually come out on top. That may be the case eventually, but it's the reason why Russia has suffered so many losses as a result of this war. As Ukraine's Ministry of Finance points out, Russia has suffered over 1.06 million casualties since Putin launched his invasion. Russia has lost more than 11,000 tanks, over 23,000 armored fighting vehicles, and tens of thousands of artillery systems, all because Putin's only real strategy is to rely on Russia's superior numbers to get the job done. That tactical ineptitude extends to Russia's defense of the territory it occupies, and the Tendrivska Spit is the perfect example. Russia's soldiers either get complacent or they get pushed to the front lines, with those left behind often being so exhausted that they can't mount a proper defense. Gaps are created, and Ukraine pays attention, and with proper planning, it's able to score massive victories while losing far fewer troops. Or, in the case of Tendrivska Spit, none at all. By contrast, the Artan Unit's work shows us that planning lies at the heart of everything that Ukraine does when countering Russia. Taking the Tendrivska Spit took weeks of work and involved the destruction of outposts that Russia didn't even seem to realize were as important as they were. The brilliant strategy Ukraine concocted has not only cost Russia millions of dollars in equipment and not an insignificant number of its soldiers, but it's also left Russia blinded in a key area of the Black Sea. And that leads to what this strike means for the future of the Ukraine war. First, Ukraine's daring amphibious raid means that more operations are possible in the Black Sea than ever before. Ukraine now knows it can hit Russia's radar outposts without an adequate response from Putin's troops, meaning it will soon start carving out more corridors along the Black Sea that will take it to key targets. The Artan unit has just created a blueprint, and the odds are that Ukraine is going to keep following it for future strikes. All of this is in service of Ukraine's ultimate goal: control over the Black Sea. Ukraine isn't at all shy about making this goal public. In March, The Guardian spoke to the captain of one of Ukraine's many patrol boats in the sea. Named Alexander, that patrol boat captain delivered a simple message: "We're here to stop the Russians from taking the Black Sea." While patrol boats can't do that job due to their lack of firepower, they do allow Ukraine to maintain eyes and ears in the Black Sea. The intelligence they gather likely support operations like the one the Artan unit just pulled off. Bit by bit, these operations are wrenching the Black Sea out of Russia's clutches, and it's this type of work that's responsible for that increasing control. In June, the Atlantic Council wrote about how Ukraine had managed to destroy a pair of Russian warplanes over the Black Sea using seaborne drones in what is described as a maritime breakthrough. That sort of strike wouldn't have been possible a couple of years ago. However, Ukraine's constant assaults on Russia's radar stations and Black Sea outposts are allowing Ukraine to operate more freely in the waterway. That's control, and every scrap of it that Ukraine gets is being used to hit Russia harder. It wasn't supposed to go like this for Putin. When he launched his invasion, he felt confident that the dreaded Black Sea fleet would be all that he needed to control the Black Sea. After all, Ukraine could only field patrol boats and a couple of mine warfare vessels. None of that could stand up to Putin's warships. But they didn't need to. As Ukraine's evolution of drone warfare continued, along with its receipt of powerful missiles from Western allies, the strikes against Russia's ships started. They didn't stop until a third of the Black Sea fleet was destroyed, and Russia was forced to withdraw the rest of the fleet so that it was out of range of Ukraine's strikes. That only made Russia's position in the Black Sea weaker. Without the fleet, Ukraine had even more patches of the waterway in which it could operate, opening up new opportunities to take out big targets. Would the Tendrivska Spit operation have even been possible if the Black Sea fleet was doing what it was supposed to do? It seems unlikely, but that fleet is now a non-factor. And the Spit ended up being one of the many victims of that fact, as well as being a shining example of the fact that Ukraine isn't resting on its laurels. It doesn't want partial control over the Black Sea. Ukraine wants it all, and each successful strike takes it a step closer. It's also hard to discount what Ukraine's slowly taking territory, such as the drilling platforms mentioned earlier in the video, could mean for the Black Sea battle in the future. As Euromaidan Press says, this amphibious special forces raid could be part of the broader war in the Black Sea itself, with drilling platforms serving as makeshift castles from where either side can surveil the area, electronically disrupt equipment, lock down airspace with air defense missiles, or launch strikes from. Ukraine gets two advantages for the price of one with these raids. First, it takes out Russia's air defense systems, or the radars that support them. The Tendrivska Spit offers an example of a radar system being decimated. But Ukraine has also struck Russia's Black Sea air defenses more directly many times in the past. In January 2025, the Center for European Policy Analysis wrote that Ukraine's assaults on Russia's air defenses were bewildering Putin's forces. Those assaults had made possible a pair of strikes, one on December 31st and another 2 days later, that took down 3 Russian helicopters. Fast forward to June 26, and Ukraine was still at it, as it managed to destroy an S-400 air defense system in Crimea. Every air defense system destroyed opens the doors for more attacks on Russia's Black Sea bases. And that leads to the second advantage. In the cases where Ukraine can retake those bases, it has the opportunity to set up air defenses of its own. That's the point Euromaidan Press is making. With those air defenses come yet more control, along with the ability to prevent Russia from launching counterattacks. Previously highlighted was how Putin's strategy typically devolves into using Russia's numbers advantage. That might work on land, but it's far harder to pull off at sea when his Black Sea fleet has run away scared and Ukraine has eyes on everything he might try to do. But the goal beyond the goal is even bigger. Right now, Ukraine wants to gain control over the Black Sea. Once it has that control, it can turn its attention to an even more important target: Crimea. Annexed by Russia in 2014, Crimea is a piece of territory that, if Ukraine could retake it, would represent a massive symbolic victory. The land has been illegally controlled by Russia for over a decade, and Ukraine hasn't given up hope that it can be retaken. It can't give up. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has already rejected any notion of handing the peninsula over to Russia, stating, "There's nothing to talk about here. This is against our constitution." The Artan Unit's exploits on the Tendrivska Spit represent one of many more intense steps that Ukraine is taking in its quest to reclaim Crimea. And that quest is far from impossible. If you think Ukraine could never retake Crimea, you're dead wrong. Find out why in our video, and remember to subscribe to the Military Show for more videos covering the latest and most daring of Ukraine's Special Forces operations.